Today, I'm going to explain a horror war movie called Under the Shadow. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. The movie opens a few years after the Iranian Revolution has taken place. This is a time when the Iraq-Iran War, one of humanity's longest and bloodiest conflicts, is underway. In Tehran, a young mother named Shideh is currently in conversation with the dean of a medical college. She had left her studies behind due to the political unrest and also because of her marriage. Shideh now wants to get her career back on track so that she can fulfill her lifelong dream of becoming a doctor. However, the dean clearly says it is impossible for her to get admitted to the college. The reason for this is her active participation in political rallies when she was a student. Following this, Shideh returns to the apartment complex where she lives along with several other families. She had left her daughter Dorsa in the care of her downstairs neighbor, Mrs. Fakour. The old lady notices Shideh getting emotional while fetching her daughter. She thus hugs the young mother and tells her not to lose hope. Later that evening, Shideh puts all her course books in a plastic bag. She doesn't want to see them now that she has no chance of becoming a doctor. Among these is a physiology textbook that Shideh's mother had given her when she first got into medical school. It even contains her handwritten message of encouragement right on the first page. Shideh locks the book in her bedside drawer, then puts the key on top of a cupboard. Shortly afterwards, her husband, Iraj, arrives home after a long day of work. It is revealed that he is a doctor, and in fact was Shideh's classmate in medical school. She tells him about everything that happened earlier, while barely holding back her tears. Iraj is sympathetic towards her, but alludes to the fact that it is better for their family if she doesn't continue her studies. The comment offends Shideh, but before she can say anything, loud alarms start blaring outside. These are air raid sirens warning about the incoming enemy missiles, which prompts everyone to rush towards the nearest designated safe area. Moments later, Shideh and her family arrive in the building's underground bunker. Their daughter, who is carrying her favorite doll, Kimia, immediately rushes to the other kids in the building. She whispers something to a boy around her age, and the latter places a small ball-like structure in her hands. Shideh, who has been watching this, asks Mrs. Fakour who the boy is. The old lady replies that he is their landlord's nephew, who arrived in Tehran only a few days ago. The following morning, Shideh wakes up to see her husband and daughter having a conversation at the dining table. The little girl claims that she heard someone walking in the house and thought it was the jinn, an evil spirit. Upon hearing this, Iraj consoles his daughter, pointing out that such things are not real. He further tries to lift her spirits by saying that her doll, Kimia, will look after her during nighttime. However, Shideh notices that her husband is holding a letter in his hand and inquires about it. He replies that it is a letter from the government and reveals that he has been drafted to the front line of the war. Iraj then suggests that Shideh take their daughter to his mother's home while he is away. He points out that his parents live in the northern part of the country, where it is relatively safer. But Shideh, who is still angry at his comment about her career, replies that she is fully capable of taking care of her daughter. That evening, Iraj leaves for his mandatory draft service and bids his family goodbye. The mother and daughter are now all on their own in their apartment. The following morning, Dorsa asks her mother if she can sleep with her tonight. The latter senses that the little girl is unusually anxious and asks if everything is okay. Dorsa eventually reveals that she is scared about jinn, which is why she can't fall asleep properly. Shideh sternly tells her that jinn are fictional characters made to scare naughty children. However, the little girl replies that Mehdi told her about such evil entities who want to hurt innocent people. Upon hearing this, Shideh realizes that Mehdi is the new kid that she saw in the bunker a few days ago. Shortly afterwards, she goes to their landlord's apartment where she is greeted by his wife, Mrs. Ibrahimi. Shideh reveals that her relative Mehdi had been telling scary stories to Dorsa. This is causing the poor child to have nightmares at night. However, the landlady says Dorsa must have made a mistake, as Mehdi is mute. His parents died several months ago in the war, and he has not uttered a word ever since. This revelation leaves Shideh speechless, and she heads back upstairs. Later that afternoon, she is playing with Dorsa Dorsa in their apartment when the phone rings. Shideh quickly picks it up and, to her relief, hears her husband's voice from the other end. He tells her things are difficult on the front line, but he is doing fine. Iraj also urges her to head to his parents' house in the northern part of the country. Turns out he has been hearing news of several missiles being launched towards Tehran. However, Shideh refuses to abandon their home simply on the basis of a rumor. After the call, she listens to the news on the radio about any potential attack on Tehran. She is continually disturbed by her daughter, who is in a playful mood. Shideh initially tries to ignore her, but when the kid keeps pestering, she loses her mind. She throws away Dorsa's doll and scolds her bitterly. However, Shideh's anger soon diffuses and she gives the kid an apple to eat. The mother and daughter are about to have lunch when suddenly the whole building begins to shake. Worried, Shideh tells her daughter to follow and quickly runs towards the staircase. The kid initially obliges, but then she returns to get her doll Kimia, which she had forgotten in the living room. A few seconds later, Shideh finally realizes that her daughter isn't behind her and sprints back to her apartment. She finds Dorsa lying unconscious in the living room and checks her pulse. The kid fortunately is alive and soon regains her senses, but she begins to sob uncontrollably. She tries to tell something to her mother when suddenly their upstairs neighbor, Noor, barges in. Turns out a missile has dropped into the building and Noor's father is seriously hurt. She knows Shideh was once a medical student and begs her to help him. The scene abruptly changes and we see Shideh administering CPR to Noor's father. She tries her best but cannot resuscitate the old man, who eventually passes away. Later, Iranian authorities retrieve the missile's outer shell from the roof of the apartment complex. Shideh expresses her guilt to Mrs. Fakour that she couldn't save the old man's life. Nonetheless, when they go back indoors, Shideh sees that a crack has appeared in the roof of her apartment too. She is wondering what to do about it when her daughter suddenly pulls her arm. Dorsa then takes her mother to her room and reveals that Kimia is nowhere to be found. She reveals that a djinn took her favorite doll when the missile hit the building. However, Shideh once again tells her that djinn do not exist in real life. She holds the little girl in her arms and finds that Dorsa is burning with fever. She thus puts her in the bed and begins cleaning the whole apartment. That night, Shideh is holding Dorsa in her arms, but then she hears Dorsa in the next room. She looks down to see that she's holding Kimia. She jolts back to reality and sees Dorsa trying to open the front door. The kid is screaming that a djinn appeared from the crack in the roof and took her doll upstairs. This freaks Shideh out, so she quickly grabs her daughter and takes her back to the bedroom. The following morning, things start getting even more bizarre, as Shideh cannot find the VHS tape of her favorite aerobic exercises. There is barely enough time to search for it, as they are soon visited by the upstairs neighbor Noor. She expresses her gratitude for Shideh's help and reveals that her family is moving to Kurdistan. Before leaving, Noor recounts the last moments of her father's life right after the missile hit. She says the old man was actually completely fine and was talking normally to her. She then went to the kitchen to bring a glass of water, but when she returned, he had a stony expression on his face. He looked as if he had seen something strange, something paranormal. Without any warning, he then collapsed to the floor and passed away. Shideh says that the old man must have had a heart attack due to the shock of the missile falling on top of their apartment. As if this wasn't enough, that night, Shideh has yet another nightmare. This time, she sees an apparition of her husband lying in bed next to her. The entity quickly begins to choke her while saying that he has come to take Dorsa, but Shideh somehow manages to free herself from the grasp of this creepy figure and yells for help. Shortly afterwards, Mr. and Mrs. Fakour come to check on her, and she tells them everything that she saw. They check her bedroom and even under the bed, but find no one in there. This event leaves Shideh baffled, but she insists that whatever she saw felt extremely real. A few days later, Shideh is busy in her kitchen preparing for lunch. She is about to throw some leftovers in the dustbin when she sees the VHS tape of her favorite aerobics dumped in there. It is completely destroyed, and Shideh suspects her daughter's hand behind it. She goes to the living room to confront Dorsa, only to see that the kid has sneaked out. Frightened, Shideh rushes outside and sees that the kid is frantically knocking on the door of their upstairs neighbor. She quickly runs to her daughter and embraces her tightly, pulling her away from the door. Dorsa, however, keeps shouting that the djinn has taken her doll inside that apartment. After putting her daughter back in her bedroom, Shideh visits Mrs. Ibrahimi. She hands the landlady the rent for this month and begins to have a conversation about her daughter. Mrs. Ibrahimi is a religious woman and doesn't hesitate to say that Dorsa may have been possessed by a jinn. According to her, these evil spirits travel from one place to another with the wind until they find someone to possess. Shideh knows that the landlady heard her daughter banging frantically on the topmost apartment's front door. She clarifies that Dorsa is simply delirious from fever and thinks that her favorite doll is locked upstairs. However, Mrs. Ibrahimi adds that if jinn take a treasured belonging from someone, that person becomes marked for life. These evil spirits will follow them everywhere if they don't find the lost belongings quickly. Unfortunately, this is only the beginning of trouble for Shideh and her daughter. The tenants in the apartment complex begin to leave one by one in the next few days. The Fakours leave for Paris, where their son works in a private bank, while the landlord, Mr. Ibrahimi, also decides to leave with his family. In the span of a few days, the mother and daughter become the only people left in the building. Until this point, Shideh was absolutely against leaving their home in Tehran, but now, with everyone gone, she has a change of heart. She decides to pack all their things and head towards the north of the country, where it is relatively safer. But Dorsa asserts that they cannot leave until she finds her doll, Kimia. Rather ominously, she says that she will always be sick if they do not find the doll. With no other option left, Shideh agrees to stay back until she can locate Kimia. She then begins searching for it everywhere and even gets irritated at her daughter for losing it. Shortly after, Shideh grabs the key to her bedside drawer and opens the bottom locker. She had kept the physiology book here that her mother had gifted her a few weeks ago. To her relief, the book is still there, although her daughter's doll is nowhere to be found. That night, the mother-daughter duo sleep in the same bed for the first time in years. Shideh, however, wakes up when she sees a strange apparition staring at them from the bedroom door. She bolts up and chases after this strange entity, but it escapes through the crack in their living room ceiling. This incident finally makes Shideh realize that they are being haunted by a jinn. The following afternoon, she tapes the crack in the living room ceiling as much as she can. She then begins to turn the whole house upside down in order to find her daughter's doll, but her frustration keeps growing as she cannot find Kimia anywhere. Eventually, all the pent-up fear and anxiety boils over, and Shideh shouts at her daughter. She even slaps her in frustration, and the little kid bites her hand in return. The mother and daughter have a little scuffle, which is only broken when the whole house shakes once more. They are, however, unsure whether it is the nearby bombing or the jinn shaking the building. That night, Shideh goes to the roof of the building and sees that the hole that was left by the missile is left uncovered. She peeks into the apartment where Noor used to live through the massive hole and sees a terrifying sight. Her cherished physiology book is lying on the floor. Shideh immediately rushes back to her home and opens her bedside locker. To her horror, the book's actually missing, and in its place is the mutilated body of the doll, Kimia. Dorsa sees this and gets upset at her mother, but the latter bravely says that she will fix everything. She then tapes the doll back together and hands it to her daughter. As they are embracing one another, the air raid sirens begin to go off once more. The mother and daughter quickly pack their things, including the doll, and head towards the bunker downstairs. Suddenly, they are attacked by the jinn, which has taken the form of a large cloth known as chador in Persian. Shideh desperately tries to pull her daughter from underneath the chador and eventually manages to do so. Dorsa makes it safely to the stairs, but Shideh is caught in the ground, which slowly begins to engulf her. Everything looks to be over until the brave kid stretches her tiny arms and pulls her mother out to safety. Without wasting any time, the mother-daughter duo then get into their car and finally escape this haunted apartment complex. However, as the camera pans back inside, we see that Kimia's head and Shideh's physiology book are still in the building. This indicates that they may still be haunted by the jinn wherever they go.